So hi guys, hello, you're welcome back. First I need to have some water just to, water is good for the body. And now a little more. I think I can say action. Hello everyone, you are welcome back to my channel and to another video on TY's thoughts. Yes, now if this is your first time coming across this or coming across me, my name is Oluwatoyin, Toyin for short and TY for shorter, which is what forms TY's thoughts. And I vlog talking about my perspective or my lessons on this journey of life and living. And this particular week I had said that I wasn't releasing any speaking videos because I had released a video called Let's Worship. So another thing that I do besides speaking is that I like to sing, and I sing in form of worship to God. I am a Christian, and so I'd released a Let's Worship video. You can click the link to the video in the description box below to watch that. So I wasn't supposed to release a speaking video this week, so to speak. But something happened to me that made me realize some things that I had been struggling with, whether consciously or subconsciously. And I'm sharing this video because it taught me a lesson, and it is something that I realized that I have to work on, that I am just consciously now beginning the journey to work on. So I'm sure you're wondering what happened to her, especially as I've titled the video something I'm struggling with. You're wondering, what is she struggling with? Let me tell you a story. Back in the year 2000, yes, it was the year 2000. I think I was about 15 or 16 at the time, if my calculations are correct. I was living with my sister. I have two sisters. I have two older sisters. So I was living with my oldest sister at the time. She had gotten married and she had just given birth in the year 2000 to her first baby. And about this point in time, can you imagine? He's going to be 20 this year. Wow. Didonlua, if you're watching this, love you. Shout out to you. Right now, he's a music producer. He's a singer. Life flies. And sometimes... Are you good? Don't worry. We'll pick it up. Yes, I am. Okay. Sorry for the break in transmission. I'm back. So I was saying that, yes, so when I was in the year 2000, so I was living with my sister, her baby at the time, who I just said is just going to be 20 this year, was about 7 months. Now, I was living with her, and we wanted to go see my parents who lived in another part of Lagos. So we started the journey. It was myself, herself, and her nanny, and the driver, and this cute 6-7 month old baby. I think that's how old he was at the time. So we got to some part of the road, somewhere on the journey, and then we're stopped by this policeman at a typical, Lagos police checkpoint. No Barbara, all the papers of the cars were complete. The driver had his driver's license, everything was fine. And then next thing, the policeman says there was a policeman and a policewoman. It is so interesting that I can literally, as I'm telling this story, I can remember, I'm playing back the scenario. I'm seeing the road, I'm seeing the car. Maybe the only thing I cannot see is the faces of the policemen, which is good. And so the policeman now said, okay, fine, he'll let us go. At about this point in time, we're still in the car. Then he now said, to prove that this car really belongs to us, the driver should come out and look for the engine number or the chassis number. I think that's what it was called. Now, apparently this number is written somewhere inside around the engine area of the car. Of course, the driver did not know the number. And this policeman then said we couldn't prove the ownership of the car. He told myself, my sister, her nanny, and this 7-month-old baby to come out of the car, to wait on the road. And he kept us waiting for about 45 minutes to 1 hour because he just kept talking about the fact that we couldn't prove the ownership of the car, blah, 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 blah. Now, what this did to me, and maybe I didn't realize at the time, but what this did to me was that from that young age, it gave me a genuine dislike for any form of authority that would stop me on the road, a genuine dislike. I didn't even realize that seed had been sown, but it had been sown. Now, fast forward to, eventually, I can't remember what happened. And sometimes you're just like, all these policemen, maybe they just want you to drop 500 or 1,000. We ain't going to drop anything. And number one, the way he had gone about it was just not even, so we're just like, what's going on here? And then we had to start looking for an engine number, a chassis number, a something number, confirm that the number, it was a mess. And he left 3 women and a baby standing under the sun, a tiny baby. And I would never forget thinking to myself, there's a female policewoman here and she can't even say anything. And like I said, it just sowed in me a seed of genuine dislike for any authority that stops you on the road. But then, the incidents passed. We eventually got back into the car, obviously upset, obviously tired. The baby was cranky. My sister was upset. It was just a mess. We continued our journey and life moved on. Now, fast forward to many years later, when I would eventually have a car and start driving, I then began to realize that any time that I was stopped on the road by any form of authority, it seemed like immediately my defenses were up, my guards were up immediately. And trust me, I have had all sorts of run-ins with all sorts of law enforcement agencies in the city of Lagos for all sorts of reasons, right? Normal car checks, and they just expect you to smile and say something, and you're just like, Oga, my papers are complete, my license is complete, my this is complete, what do you want? And I'm just going to be giving off all sorts of attitude because of what had happened to me many years ago. So why am I telling this story now? In the course of this week, I once again ran into this kind of situation. And looking back at how I handled it, I realized that I was a tad prideful, maybe a tad foolish, maybe. And then I started to ask myself, Toyin, what's going on with you? Like, you really didn't have to act this way. So let me quickly tell another story. So I was trying to buy some fruits on a street where these malams just, have their wheelbarrows with their fruit on the street, right? But there was a car parked beside them buying fruit. So I parked behind the car, but I was parked beside another car. So it was like a double parking situation, so to speak. But as far as I was concerned, I wasn't parking, I was waiting. That sign that says no parking, no stopping, no waiting, right? Because I was in the car, my pointer was on, I was just waiting for the person to buy fruit. And then all of a sudden, this van comes, maybe they're local council, development people or something, and, they ask me, why am I here? And I'm like, I'm just waiting to buy the fruits from this person. And before I know it, so I wound down my window because I even just wanted to explain, those typical things they do, put their hand inside your car, open your door, get in his seats down. Immediately, all of the irritation and anger of 20 years ago came back. And I'm like, why are you in my car? What do you want? And the guy starts saying, you're double parking, you're this, you're that. And I'm trying to explain, Oga, this is actually what's happening. As you can see, I'm trying to buy fruit. It's just that, to cut the long story short, right? It didn't end pretty. I know that maybe they were expecting me to at least be a bit more calm and to apologize and to just say, but, all I could remember was when people are just frustrating your life on the road because they are law enforcement. So I got all up in my full attitude zone, full I did not do anything mode. Don't tell me I did anything mode. Before I knew it, they were saying, drive her to our office. Even then, I wasn't moved. Eventually, they drove me to the office. I got ticketed. I paid money. When I left that place, I asked myself, Toyin, what just happened? Because it's just like you're just leaving somewhere to go somewhere else. You decide to make a detour to buy fruits. And all of a sudden, in less than this, your life changes, your time is wasted, money has been spent, all of these things. A part of me felt like, when the Bible says the devil came to steal, kill, and destroy, I felt like he just stole from me. He just stole my time, he stole my money, he stole my everything. But when I sat down to think about it, I told myself, Toyin, don't blame anybody about this. Blame yourself. What is wrong with you? Would it have been? I mean, the man even said, you're even a Yoruba girl, Yoruba Tieni, can't you speak Yoruba to us? And I was just like, please, I'm not even all up for that Tiwa spirit right now. I was just all attitude, and it wasn't necessary. Even the Bible says a soft answer turns away wrath. That whole situation did not at all have to play out the way that it played out. If I just allowed myself to become peaceful and kind and loving, but I couldn't allow myself to be that. Why? Because there was something else playing in my heart. There was something else playing in my mind. There was a seed that had been sown in me 20 years ago, that anytime any situation seemingly like that happened to me, after then I acted in a certain way. And this is why I say there is something I am struggling with, because this took me down a very thought-provoking lane. And I told myself, this is how things happen to us in life, that we allow to hold us back, that we allow to steal our dreams, that we allow to cut us short, that we allow to cut away blessings from our lives, because we are not just willing to let them go. And there are many things that me and you struggle with like that. Someone might be watching this, one guy did something to you 10 years ago, and because of that you have all these statements: all guys are this, no guy is this is this. A lady did something to you, a boss did something to you, maybe a parent hurt you, maybe a parent abused you, maybe it was a friend, maybe it was something. All sorts of things that we hold on to and that we keep struggling with for the rest of our lives, and that we refuse to let go of. And whether we know it or not, they are costing us time, they are costing us effort, costing us money, costing us destiny, opportunities, costing us places where you would have gone to, you would have made good relationships, because immediately you just see that human being. All you see is the human being that did this to you 52 years ago, and you just project from that 52 years ago, you project it on this new person. Meanwhile, this is a different situation. This is a different scenario. This is a different person. It is important that we allow ourselves to process these things so that we can deliver ourselves from ourselves. Because many times we blame the environment, we blame other people, we blame situations, we blame circumstances for why our lives are not moving, or for why this is happening, or for why that is happening. But if you look within, many times the responsibility is ours. So this is what happened to me. And like I said, I went back after a very good cry. Crying is my way of letting go of emotion. I sat down and asked myself, what is going on here? And so I decided to write down the questions that came to my mind, because moving forward, people, I don't have energy to be having run-ins with any. I mean, it wouldn't have cost me anything if those people came and they said, oh, you're doing double packing, and I'm just like, oh God, sorry, it's not like that, so this is what I want to buy. The tone of voice in which I said it would have mattered. The attitude or the body language that I gave off would have mattered if it was softer, if it was kinder. But I was all just, don't say that, I'm not the shalala, shalala. Eventually, who lost? I lost my time. I was going somewhere that was just supposed to be a 2-minute detour, which almost led to a 30-minute debacle. I lost my money that I could have used to do many other fantastic things in life. It wasn't small money. I lost the possibility of maybe even having new relationships, because those people could have become my friends. Do you understand? I lost all of those things, and I was the one left to sulk. And after sulking, I said, okay, Lord, this is a lesson in life not to miss. Because see, the way that I'm living my life moving forward is I have to learn from my life. Me, I'm the first learner from my life. If you've done things a certain way for many years and it has not worked, it has not produced results, it's high time you sit down and you ask yourself, what can I learn from this? How can I learn from this? You are the first person that you're going to learn from. So I actually got my book and I said, something I am struggling with. And this is how I learn. I have to think about it, I have to process it, I have to write it down, I have to begin to work on it. And I asked myself, number one, Tony, and I want, as you're watching this, like I said, we do these videos to learn from one another, and so that this is just my lessons in life. If you're struggling with something like that, and I don't know what it is, it could be anything and everything. And I know that this might seem like a very simple example. Some people are watching this and saying, do you know what I'm dealing with? I'm dealing with rape. I'm dealing with domestic abuse. I'm dealing with verbal abuse. Verbal abuse can be deep, guys. Many times we shout about the big things like domestic abuse, but things like verbal abuse and emotional abuse, where the scars are not visible, but the inner scars are the things that are causing things like mental health today, bipolar, multiple personalities, when people have been abused all their lives, all their childhood, all of those things, just running programs in your system. People are going through these things, struggling with them day in, day out. You know, you act out and people are wondering, why are you always moody? Why are you always acting out? Why are you always this? Why are you always that? Because of all sorts of things that are running up in your system day by day by day by day. All sorts of words that are just playing over in your mind day by day. But I believe that moving forward, it is time to decide to take that struggle by the horn and one by one begin to nip it in the bud. Because what happens many times is we deal with the fruits of situations, we don't deal with the roots. So for example, this happened and I might have just decided to, okay, move on, let it go. It has happened, oh Lord, and no. But I got to a point this week where I said, no, Tony, is enough. Enough is enough. What's going on? Which is why I went down memory lane and I by myself traced it back to 20 years ago and I said, this is where this thing is coming from. This is why this thing is like this. This is why I react like this. Now, Twain, you need to change. You have to stop this thing. One person did it 20 years ago. It does not mean that every single law enforcement that stops you in the world, whether it's in the city of Lagos or anywhere else, is the same. That was one person. Don't project the mistakes of one person or maybe of 2 people or maybe of 10 people on other people. Every single person is different. Every single situation is unique. And we need to learn to handle situations one by one by one and not project literally the sins of the father upon the children, which is what we are prone to do as human beings. So like I said, I wrote down a couple of questions, and if you're going through your own struggles, I want you to think about these questions because you have to tackle things at the root. If you're struggling with something that has become a recurrent pattern in your life, and that's what happens, these things form patterns, ask yourself, where is this pattern coming from? When was the first time it happened? I remember a time in my life where I was trying to get something and it just seemed like every time I almost got it, I will act a certain way. Every time I almost got it, I will act a certain way. Until I had to sit down again, and this was about 2013, 14, and ask myself, where is this thing coming from? I traced it. I traced it back to certain things, and I was like, I see it now. I took it to the Lord in prayer. I started to pray about it. I started to write how I would choose to act instead of how I was acting. And with time, I changed it because once we discover those things, we need to begin to change them. So the first thing, if you're struggling with something, sit down, go down memory lane, do that work. Ask yourself, where is this thing coming from? Who sowed this seed in you? What happened? Allow your mind to play back the scenario. Yes, it might be painful. Yes, it is very uncomfortable. Yes, it might bring back memories that you think that you've forgotten, but you have not forgotten. No, it's there. It is stored. It is affecting you. It's high time we let those things go. Play them back. Go over them again. Then it's time to sacrifice them. Let them go. Decide that this thing, you are not going to affect me anymore. Whatever I need to let them go. And let them go can mean different things. For some people, it might be relationships where you feel like you need to still go and meet whoever it might be, who might be alive, and feel you need to have a conversation with that person to let it go. That might be what you need to do. For some people, let them go might even mean you need to write the thing down and burn it. Truly speaking, there are different things that people need to do to let things go, because that process of emotional release is sometimes in itself is a journey, and it's a very unique journey to each and every one of us. So what do you need to do to let that thing go? After you have gone to the root and identified what the root is, what you need to do to ensure that that root is uprooted from your life so that it cannot bear fruit again. Because some people struggle and say, oh, I can't, you can't imagine how deep, how this, what they did, how they did. And I want to ask you a question. What is it costing you? Because until you realize what it is costing you to hold on to that thing that you're struggling with, you will not realize how much it is taking from you. For me, I've had so many unnecessary run-ins with law officers that have taken me to their offices that has cost me time, that has cost me money, that has cost me effort, that has cost me so many things. And after the one that happened this week, I just said, really? What is it costing you? Because it costs us something very deep. And until you actually count the cost, you realize that I am the one that is losing so much. So ask yourself, what is it costing you? And then when you do that, ask yourself, Why am I finding it hard to let go? So the first one is you take it by the root, you nip it in the bud, you're ready to nip it in the bud, then you decide to let go. Now, in the journey of deciding to let go, especially if you're finding it difficult to let go, ask yourself what it is costing you. Then ask yourself, why are you finding it hard to let go? And then ask yourself, what do you need to do to let this thing go? And begin to take action on those steps. Like I said, it is a journey. For me, one of the things that I've decided to do is put myself in a mental state where I then begin to play back scenarios of if I am ever again stopped by a law enforcement agency, a law enforcement person, if I'm ever stopped by one of them, and even just see myself being nice, see myself being kind. You know, it's interesting because I had a friend in that very, for want of a word, station that they took me to. I didn't call him. I was also so prideful. I didn't call it. I said I was not going to call anybody. I don't want anybody to beg for me. I didn't call my husband. I didn't call anybody. The man that I knew in the place, I didn't call him. In fact, it was after I had done the whole thing, paid the money for the ticket, formed proud woman, I got outside and I called the man and I said, your people just stopped me. The man was so angry. He said, why didn't you call me? Foolishness, my foolishness, because, you know, I just forming prided, full of pride. Foolishness. It's actually unforgiveness. They always describe unforgiveness as locking someone in a prison, not knowing that it's you that you're in prison with them. So you think that you're locking someone in the prison of your heart, but you self, you're inside that prison with them. You two are locked down inside that place. It is time to release yourself from the prison of all of these struggles. It is not worth your time. It is not worth your effort. It is not worth your destiny. We are losing so much when we hold on to all of these struggles of life. And the final thing I said is, people, you really need to let it go. Whether it is pain, relationship failure, parenting failure, all sorts of things that we are just struggling with day in, day out. Look, it is time to move on. It's one by one by one, oh. It's one by one. This one I've cried for 20 years. The one that I did in 2014, I'd cried for many years. So sometimes it is situations like what happened to me this week that'll make us realize, okay, I'm still struggling here. You know, you might feel that your life is rocking in some other area of your life, and then one thing happens and you realize, oh, wow, I'm still struggling in this. Oh, wow. This is still all up in my heart. Yes, these things happen. Don't cry over spilled milk. Take it to the Lord in prayer. Begin to deal with it and let your struggles go. Yay! You know, I decided to do this video because I told myself, if I can share this story, this is part of my letting go process, that I can even talk about it, that I can even just, you know, just share it out to the whole world, literally. It's part of my letting go process. So this is what I am struggling with, or one of the things that I have been struggling with. It was quite a fascinating situation, but it ended and I left the place. But I'm glad that I'm learning. You know, we're all a work in progress. All of us, we're all a work in progress. And sometimes you just need to know that life is a journey. It takes one step after the other, one day, one step at a time. But as long as you're true to yourself and you're true to the journey and you recognize life for what it is, you recognize that every day is a day to be better. Not just to do better, but to be better. Because when we are better on the inside, it's easier to do better on the outside. And you just commit to that day by day, step by step process. Wow, this has become a long video. I hope that what I've shared today has been helpful to you. If you've had some things that you're struggling with and you want to share, you can share in the comment section. And if you feel like it's personal and you just want to talk about it, you can send me a DM on Instagram at TWiseThoughts20. Subscribe to my channel. I hope that together we can just help one another to create content that will help us to grow and learn. I do these videos to just help one another. God bless you. Thank you for watching. And until the next week, see you later.